Thank you all for joining us. It's brilliant to see so many people in the attendance box. And you'll notice, guys, just straight away to say that you've got a chat box there. I don't know if many of you have used Click Meeting before, but thanks for joining us. And yeah, we've got the chat pod here and it's live. And so throughout the session, please do sort of give any feedback or questions that pop up along the way. You can see me. My name's Quinn. So nice to meet you. If we haven't met before, I know I've been down to a few of the sort of dyslexia events that the Brighton team have put on before. So we may have met, but if we haven't, yeah, Quinn Chandler's my name. I work with Scanning Pens, and my main focus at Scanning Pens is actually business development within the primary sector. So a lot of sort of information about primary schools, but of course our pens, for any of you who are in secondary or further education as well as the primaries, you know, our pens do support students of all ages and actually into the workplace as well. So if you're thinking maybe for yourself or members of the family, you know, there are ways in which you can get the pen into play in sort of everyday life from primary all the way through to higher education, but and the workplace. But my focus is always primary schools, and I've got Julia Clouter with me today. I can't actually see Julia, but I don't know. Julia, are you here? Can you hear me?
Hi, everybody.
Brilliant. So
yeah,
I can just see Julia loading up. But as I say, my name's Quinn, and I'm lucky to be joined by Julia Clouter, who is our head of education at Scanning Pens. So Julia will be joining us today to tell us a bit about her fantastic resources that she's created, which I can model well here, if you can all see. Yeah, the idea of the session really today is for me to give you a bit of an introduction into the pens. I mean, some of you guys may use the pens, and like I say, the chat box is there. So if you are using them and you have questions, please use this as a place to ask them. But equally, we'll give you an overview of the features and the benefits of using scanning pens, and maybe the sort of students that benefit heavily from the use of them. And then Julia will give us a good sort of overview of the resources that she's created to really support, well, initially implementation and identification for how students can be using the pens or benefiting the pens, and a number of other things like that. So huge engagement we've had from her resources in primary and I think sort of early stages of secondary as well, if that's right to say, Julia. So yeah, it'd be really good to hear from her as well as it will from me. So yeah, without further ado, we'll crack on to the initial slides. Unless you want to introduce yourself any further, Julia, but I think I might have done a full job there. So the reader pen. Now, like I say, many of you may use the pens already in school, and if you do, fabulous. And let us know how you're getting on with them in the chat if you do. But if not, this here is a reader pen, and as you can see, it's a small, slim, highlighter-sized piece of kit, which we refer to as sort of mid-level tech reading intervention. Now, as you can see on the screen here, we've got the actual graphic of the reader pen with the main features that it includes that are all detailed in the graphic. Now, I just want to run through these just to really give you guys an idea of everything they include before we look at how they can be used in practice. So the text reader, which is the first icon that you can see here on the left of the screen, is, I guess it's fair to say, the core of the where the work is done in the reader pen. So as you'd imagine, that the reader pen is there to support individuals who have reading difficulties, whether it be dyslexia, whether it's mild processing difficulties, or even other SPLDs, dyspraxia, etc. So giving the ability of a text reader where we can actually take written text, printed text, and scan over it and hear it via the headphones or the speaker is really giving people the sort of ability to process text at a speed that matches their own processing speeds, and help them decode questions. So the text reader, you simply use it, like I say again, you would a highlighter. You can use the nib that you can see here on the end of my pen to scan over any printed text. So unfortunately, it doesn't work on screens or handwriting, especially not my handwriting, which I'm always asked oftenly. Does it work on handwriting? No. Any printed text, and you can use the text reader to scan over that text, whether it be a line, an individual word, or a whole sort of body of text. There's no limit to what you can scan. And as you can see in the graphic, that text that you've scanned will appear on the screen. So you get the audio support by, once you finish scanning the words you want to hear back, it will read those words back to you out loud, like I said, via a speaker or through the headphones we provide with the reader pen. As well as getting that audio support, which is crucial, you also get the visual. But as you can see, the words are highlighted on the screen here, and as they actually read through, or as the pen reads through the words that are being spoken out, each individual word is highlighted to really sort of enhance the word that's being spoken. So you get the audio and you get the visual. So we always refer to these pens as sort of a multimodal support in terms of a reading intervention, giving the audio and the visual support, and hopefully giving a bit more sort of stability to users in terms of remembering the words that they're struggling with, and really just hopefully improving their literacy ability on the whole. So that's the text reader, and it's accompanied by a dictionary. Now the dictionary is something that is including a number of different dictionaries. So you have the ability to use French dictionaries, Spanish dictionaries, the full Collins dictionary as well in there. But actually the most sort of commonly used dictionary is the Oxford Primary Dictionary. So again, many of you may be from primaries or even secondaries, but the truth is either or, we see most of our use within the dictionary coming from the Oxford Primary Dictionary. It gives nice simplified definitions of words, and it has hundreds of thousands of words or definitions of words within there. So you can, I mean, an example of how you might be using it, you might scan a sentence in a book, and rather than spending your entire time decoding or even just not accessing books because you're afraid that you don't understand half of the words in there, you can actually highlight over a sentence, hear the sentence, then maybe select an individual word to hear the meaning of that, understand it in context, and then hear it back again in the sentence that you've scanned. So it makes it really nice in terms of actually being able to understand words as well as hear them to process them. So you've got the ability to do the text reader and the dictionary. And like I say, to match your age level or reading ability, you have the different dictionaries, whether it be the Oxford Primary Dictionary or the full Collins Dictionary, which obviously, as we all know, has the sort of longer, much more wordy definitions of words. So those are the two core features. And within the settings, which I'll bounce to, which is the last bit on the graphic here, you can actually really personalize the pen to an individual's needs. So I'm sure you guys all support many different students with many different level of needs. Some students have very sort of slow processing speeds, or some students just need that sort of bit of confidence that access text they don't understand, but actually, maybe they have a bit of reading anxiety, but actually their processing speeds aren't so slow. So we try and make the pens we try and make it so you can personalize the pens as much as possible to match the needs of the individual. So within the settings, you have the ability to add in a pause between each word and after any punctuation. So the punctuation pause really allows you to differentiate after any punctuations, which I think is really key for anyone using the pen. But the word pause, actually, it's really lovely. It enables you to add in up from 1 to 5 seconds word pause, which can really slow down the pace in which the text is read back to you, and it can really support the needs of an individual with slow processing speeds, as an example. So yeah, it's a really great function within the reader pen that you're actually able to sort of match it to individuals, and the settings that you create within the pen will stay as the default. So if I've set my pen up for a certain way, every time I use it, it'll be ready and set as my default settings. So it's personalized to me, which is fantastic. And those are the way in which you can adjust the settings. There's other things in there. So for example, you might be noticing, for the observant ones of you, that I'm picking up the pen with my left hand. You can change it from left-handed to right-handed mode, things like that. So it really makes it extremely user-friendly for whoever's using the pen. The other icons within here are the scan to file and the recorder. So the scan to file is a nice element of the pen. Again, quite often we see this used with older students, because what it enables you to do, there's a memory within the reader pen. And if we're going to be visiting or revisiting a body of text, let's say my English poem that I'm going to be using in my coursework for GCSEs, let's say, I'm probably going to revisit that piece of text a number of times. So I can actually scan that and save it into the pen and then just revisit it every time I want to. So it's something that it's not making me rescan all the time. And then actually, if I then want to use that piece of text in a Word document, it has a clever function where I can scan to file into the reader pen and then send it up into a computer and edit that work within a Word document or any other document. So it's really nice sort of way in which you can use it. But again, for me, like I said at the top, most of my work's in primary, and I like to give examples of how I see the functions of the pen used in different education settings. And within primary, it's quite nice, actually. Recently, a lot of Senkos have said to me that they have been using the scan to file for almost like a pre-teaching exercise. So if, let's say, for an example's sake, we are going to be doing this activity today, and we want a student with, who's maybe not got the skills or the confidence to use the reader pen, but actually we haven't got the ability to support their reading needs. I know this has happened a lot recently where, teaching bubbles have been smaller because of COVID, or It could be any number of reasons. That's something that's happened recently where the students haven't been able to have the reading support that they might require. They're not that confident maybe using the reader pen. So their teachers scan the whole activity that they're going to be doing in the class today into the reader pen, and it just enables the student to stay up to speed with the rest of the class, work inclusively, but yet independently, and just access the text. So that's a way in which you see the scan to file element used in primary. And then lastly, the recorder. So the recorder is, as it says on the tin, it's not a musical instrument that we can play, which would be quite nice, I think. But actually, it is something which we can record our voice into the reader pen and then play back. So again, examples of how I see this used. Well, the dictionary actually has a history of words. So it's quite common that students with reading difficulties can't identify areas of text that they struggle with. So we've included a history where you can actually, as their teacher or learning support teacher or their parent, you can go in and see the words that the student's been scanning of the dictionary and identify areas of text that they're struggling with. And then you might use the recorder to do sort of sounding out activities of those words or those groups of that type of group of text. So that's the way in which we see the recorder used. And also we hear a lot of the time that Senkos are leaving messages of encouragement for their students within the recorder to play back. So there's loads of different ways in which you can use it. And as students get older, as you imagine, they start using them as dictaphones to record lectures and so forth. So there's a number of different aspects to sort of use the scan to file and the recorder. But like I said before, I think the core sort of benefits of the reader pen come from the text reader and the dictionary. And that leads me quite nicely onto my next slide, which just is really to touch on a few of the benefits of using the reader pen and how they support our young learners in sort of better accessing their studies, essentially. So I think the first one I've got written here is promotes independence. Now, I'm sure loads of you have in school many different interventions, some of them are assistive tech based, if you like. And I think it's quite clear to say that any bit of assistive tech is all about building independence for individuals. We want our young learners to learn independently, learn by doing. I think it's clear that, a big value or a big sort of element of being able to learn is by doing, and many people respond well to that. So if we can give our students independence where possible, or give them sort of bits of assistive tech that enhance their independence, then we're doing a good job. So the core benefit of using something like a reader pen, of course, is to promote independence. Now, the second one I've got here is building reading confidence and reducing anxieties. I think something that we always touch on it, the ability to read, literacy, the access to learning is underpinned by literacy, right? We need to be able to be confident in reading to access our studies and enjoy life, access books, access any sort of text, even if it's to read a menu, right, in a restaurant. I know a lot of people get excitement from that. So, we want to help build reading confidence and reduce anxieties. And again, I'm working at primary level where I see a huge amount of students with reading anxieties that are building up, that if they're not sort of combated or sort of not taken care of, but reduced, those anxieties, they can fester and build and become a problem, as they move on in life, as they move on into secondary school, they can sort of build issues into other areas of their life. So we really feel strongly about implementing assistive tech early, and in this case, a reader pen. And we really feel strongly that it can reduce those anxieties and build reading confidence, just in the sense that students know that they don't have to constantly ask for support, maybe from an individual. We know that loads of kids don't like to have their hand up always asking for support, or maybe they won't even ask for that support, and therefore their sort of learning outcomes are diminished because of it. So yeah, if we can give them the confidence to sort of pick up the pen or know the pen's there for when they can't decode a question or when they can't process some text, then again, we're doing our job. And I think there's a huge sort of, I guess, obvious benefit of using the reader pen as a reading intervention. Now, the next 2 points I've got in my slide here are supporting students in accessing all areas of the curriculum and enabling students to access age-relevant text. Now, they might seem quite similar in terms of what the benefit is, but I list them separately because, again, I'd be probably getting the gist of it. I like to give examples. And I mean, in terms of the first point, supporting students in accessing all areas of the curriculum, we talk to schools on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure you guys will sort of nod along. I was going to say at home, but you're probably still in the office, so you probably nod along in the office to this. And a lot of the time, the students we're supporting, especially with dyslexia, are quite able and actually quite sort of flourishing students in other areas of the curriculum. Let's use the example I like to use, maths. So I'm often given the feedback from teachers that, the guys they've taken the reader pens out for are, proficient mathematicians, if you like, but the sort of wordy problem-solving approach to the questioning can completely throw them off, and they spend their time decoding the question and actually not getting down to the crux of the learning, which is the math problem. So if they've got something like the reader pen that can just quickly scan over the problem and they can listen to that problem back as many times as they want, understand what they're being asked to do and actually get down to the maths, then we're enabling them to access all areas of the curriculum that maybe they otherwise would have taken a lot longer to do so, or not been able to do so independently. So it's a huge factor in terms of giving students the ability to access and the confidence to access all areas of the curriculum. And like I said, it's quite similar in terms of enabling students to access age-relevant text. I think I used the example in the previous slide that, we want to give the confidence that I want to read, the latest David Walliams book or the Harry Potter book that my friends are reading, but I'm aware, and we hear this from students all the time, they're aware that they're not able to push themselves. They're not reading the books their friends are reading, and they are almost staying at a flat level because they don't have the confidence or the ability to read above that level. And I think something like the reader pen, in terms of having the ability to read, they might know a high percentage of the words within a book, but actually 15-20% of the words that are within these sentences completely throw them off. It means that they are just decoding, they are not understanding the book, they're not enjoying the book, which is the thing that we really want to promote, developing that love for literacy. So enabling students to access age-relevant text by having the confidence to just use the dictionary to scan over a word they don't understand, and then use the text reader to scan over that sentence and hear it in context and really understand and push on and have the confidence to access age-relevant books. That's another huge benefit of what we're trying to do. And then my next point here is helping to close the reading gap in the classroom. I think everything that I've mentioned on this benefit slide here is all contributing to helping close that reading gap that we are. I mean, for me in my job, I'm hearing about all the time. I side them because I hear about it all the time. And I'm always a little bit reluctant to say to people like you guys who are actually, at the chalk face, you're in the classroom, what reading gap there is or isn't. And I know the news and reports and stuff will always really highlight it, and it does, and I'm sure it does it for a very valid reason, but I don't like to sit there and sort of dwell on that too much. So that's why I side. But I think there is an inevitable reading gap that I guess has, as we keep hearing from reports and from the news, has grown over this last year. So if we can put into place supports such as a reader pen or any other reading support that benefits our students and helps close that gap, we are really doing a good job. And I think that the more we can close the gap in primary, because there are always loads of facts and figures going around about the amount of students leaving primary without the required reading age, the better we can do to close that gap and reduce that number, I think the more chance those students have for going on to succeed when they're into their secondary school. Because as we know, I guess the reading ages sort of go up a lot quicker in secondary. The support may be slightly harder to come by if it's not been identified early. And so, I think if we can help to close that gap as early as possible, then we're doing our job. And that's nearly leading us on into these resources that Julia's created, because a lot of those are about identifying the needs of students. But before we move on, it's just the last couple here is like I said before, the pens are inclusive, they're discreet. You've got a headphone that comes with it, so you can use it nice and easily in the classroom. I think there's not a lot of stigma attached to using something like this because they are so small, so discreet, and so easy to use. And look, apart from all the obvious things that I've mentioned already, it frees up times for you guys as teachers, for your teaching assistants, and even parents at home to not spend time, always sort of supporting those with the reading need and with constant reading support needs, and actually being able to spend time with those who need pushing on to extension activities. Or if you're a TA, it gives you more time maybe to support the teacher, which I know has been something a lot of teachers have said to us of late. They've been swamped. So all of these things contribute to a large number of benefits that like I say, may have been quite obvious in terms of using a bit of assistive tech to support your reading needs, but really key for us to outline to you guys today and hopefully show how the reader pens can be used and who they can support. And just as I pass over to Julia, what we've done, or what Julia's done, which is fabulous, and she's going to give us a bit of a whip through now, is create a number of resources that help you identify the needs of students and identify if students could benefit from the reading pens, and also then activity books that help you implement the reader pens into normal way of working, and also build student confidence and really show to you if the students are benefiting from the reader pens. So I'll hand over to Julia to tell us a bit about her fantastic creations, and look forward to hearing more about those.
Hey, Quinn, thank you. You've raised one of the most important points in all of our minds at the moment, which is how do we build capacity? We have got so much to do. We've got so much ground to cover. We've got so many students who need support. So that business of how do we build capacity is the theme that I'm going to take through just a few slides with you, and it won't take too long. So just to give you a little bit of background of me, my name's Julia Clouter. I was a teacher for at least 25 years, if not a little bit more. And have been a Senko for a lot of that time, a dyslexia specialist within that role as well. Also worked in primary PRUs, secondary PRUs and mainstream. So I've been fortunate enough to work with the students who have shown me how much support they've actually needed through their behaviour, through their learning experiences, through my conversations with their parents. And that has been a fabulous groundwork for me to be able to now bring back and provide you with some free resources that you can find on the Scanning Pens website that will help you do a fantastic job of implementing scanning pens. So building capacity, yes, absolutely. How can we do that? Okay, I've created some resources. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is the Helping Hand Detective Agency. It is a little booklet, but you can download it. Free from the website. Just follow the links through the resources primary, look for Helping Hands, and just pull it down into your box. I think all you've got to do is put your email address in for you to get it. There is good pedagogical stuff at the front that explains why I have written it the way I have. I've used building learning power as the foundation for the 15 stories that I have written, and they are comprehension activities. And next to that comprehension activity is a learning opportunity. So on the one page, you've got something that you can scan with your scanning pen. And on the other side of the page, there are a series of activities that show you how to do that with the scanning pen. So if I'm asking the student to decode a word in the Oxford Primary Dictionary, it will say, scan the words and listen back with your reader pen, and it gives a clear explanation of how to find that in the reader pen. So essentially what we're looking at is a self-supporting resource that goes through the 4 things that Quinn mentioned earlier: recording, scan to file, use of the text reader and the dictionary. So it gives you all of the how-tos across 15 stories that are quite good fun about characters who are having a little adventure together. I based the characters on students that I taught, actually, and if you download it and read them, I think you'll find that they're quite familiar types of students. There is a squirrel who's works at quite a pace, and whose attention is not always completely on the task ahead of her, but she's doing lots of things all at once. There's a squirrel who is kind of a tortoise who's classically dyslexic. So the characters in here are appealing to children, and the stories are around some top tech that they use, so it's topical. Just thinking about how you might use this resource, if you are thinking about how you might deploy a summer school activity, I'm just thinking ahead now because we've got some bids for summer schools going on, available for schools to make. You could actually have this as a self-supporting resource that went with the reader pen. Easy job for a teacher or a teaching assistant to go through, and for the student to learn how to use the pen and do these activities at the same time. So I think that's potentially helpful for the current climate and builds capacity, because it means that you don't have that assistant looking for work or additional resources. It's just there ready to download with the pen, and we know it works because we've had some fabulous feedback. national tutoring program, actually some schools are choosing to take that on board themselves, aren't they, and are providing support. Here is another way of doing it. If you've got a reading gap and you're going to use the reader pen as a strategy to address that gap, then why not accompany with this? And then that teacher is just set without having to do lots of background work. And you don't actually have all that business of cognitive load, i.e. learning how to use the reader pen while also learning how to do your reading at the same time or learn something specific. You've got a task that is set aside for discovering how to use that pen and using it effectively. So that's a resource that you can collect. I will go on just now to talk about Literacy Passport, and with really with transition in mind, because at the moment I'm just thinking about those summer schools again. They're focused for those students between 6 and 7, so might be used more by the secondary schools, but I'm also thinking about those students who have missed an awful lot through no fault of their own. Perhaps they've just not been into school, or their gaps have got bigger, or they've had several COVID experiences in addition to lockdown. These are the children whose learning gaps are emerging. And if you're then passing those children from class to class, teacher to teacher, school to school, all of that good knowledge and information that the previous class teacher will have built up about that student's learning preferences get lost in the mist, and you still have a student who desperately needs that support at the other end. So I'm just going to highlight to you, here is another resource that you can download, and I have written this in such a way so that you can tick boxes, because I know what it's like doing that job of creating things, and it's a pain. So I've done it for you. So all you need to do is literally read through, check boxes, and it will give you some indicators for handing on to the next teacher so that they can see what you've already identified are the reading differences, the learning difficulties, the challenges, whether you've already shared some of these concerns with parents, if you've already developed an IEP, if perhaps you've already contacted the learning support advisory team and have been waiting for an assessment. These are things that are key information when you hand student on through the transition process. So easy way for you to record those kind of bits of information just by checking through and ticking. Within this, because I was thinking about reader pen when I was developing it, there is a pull-out page in the middle that is just specifically about how you use your reader pen. If you've got a student who really loves using this pen and they're transitioning to secondary, wouldn't it be fabulous if the supporting document went with that student to secondary, so that they don't fall in a hole without the assistive technology that they use confidently in the classroom? So that's good. There is also an IEP here. So if you're at the point where you are writing something for Assess, Plan, Do, Review, and you're doing a first cycle and you want to evidence that particular strategy and look at the learning gains, that's another document that's available in here. So I would draw your attention to the Literacy Passport. If you are someone who has been using this and you would like to get in touch with me and talk to me about it, I would love to talk to you, because I'm going to start writing the second version of this soon. So if you've got thoughts about it and you want to share that with me, I would welcome feedback. So those are the two main documents that I wanted to share with you, because I want you to have the capacity and to be able to support your teams to have the capacity to get on with that really crucial business of that one-to-one support that brings on the learning, rather than having to do that business of supporting a child's reading in a mechanical way. We don't need to do that. We've got great technology and support that will do that for us. I think that's me, Quinn.
Yeah. I think a couple of things I noticed from what you said. I think you said something about, it is quite good when you spoke about the helping hands. And I know, guys, I'm not 100% sure about whether everyone on the call is primary or secondary. But again, when I'm working with primaries, we always give this out with anyone who takes trials of the pen, because as you'd imagine, they always want to trial it with a few different students. It just makes it easy. And the feedback we get, especially from the kids, is amazing. It really is. And I can say that because I didn't write it. So Julia's being modest. It is really cool. And I think it is a real subtlety in terms of the characteristics of the characters and the students that use it, but it does make it, again, this is feedback that I've had from parents and teachers, it does make it so much more familiar for the students to relate to these activities and the characters that are in it. So you did a great job. And I think, guys, if any of you are thinking about trialing the pens or already have them and haven't used the reader pen, I've put in the chat here where you can download it from. That on our website is just, it asks you just to put your email address so it can send it to you. But equally, you can ask me as well, and I can send you a copy as well. So whatever works. And like Judith said, we can then give a lot more of a detailed support from her or myself about the literacy passport, what it includes, as well as the helping hands, and further demos of the scanning pens if you guys do want to get them into play in the classroom. And by saying that, I mean, it's good to say you can try them out free. You probably know that, but you get a month trial. And I mean, now, for example, say we're quite generous, so because we always have to adhere to school holidays. So if you were to take trials following this event, I know that the month will then lead you over the half term, so we then just make it longer. So you probably end up getting, excluding half term, you probably end up getting sort of 7 or 8 weeks of trial time of the pens, so you can really sort of make use of the resources, really understand what students are benefiting from and what aren't, because we are always honest, this literally changes lives for some but not all, so and that, I think that is fair to say about every bit of assistive tech and probably every intervention that you try. Hence why Julia mentioned in the literacy passport that it's good to document what you try, because we don't want to just repeat what doesn't work. Right? That's boring for the student and for you as a teacher. So so what I'll do quickly, guys, is I've got a survey here which gives you the chance to I should be able to find one, gives you a chance to just say you'd like some more information, you'd like a trial, you'd like a bit more information, and you'd like to hear more from us. So if it should be on your screens, if you'd like to vote on that, you can.